Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Films and Stuff podcast. I am Ethan, joined, as always, by ever-present Pete. Hey, Pete, what's up?
Not much, buddy. How are you?
Everything is beyond great today because we have, for the first time in a long time, a true blockbuster film to discuss, yeah?
You know, it's so funny you mentioned that because I was talking to my family and they all were saying the same thing, which has been, I can't remember the last time you went to the cinema to see a movie that you really wanted to talk about.
Yeah. It's been, there has not been, I would say the last one was Deadpool and Wolverine. Prior to that, 2024? I'm not sure, huh?
You saw the lovely Megalopolis.
if still looking for its first million in ticket receipts, right?
Honestly.
Did you see Megalopolis yet?
No, I still haven't seen it because it has still not been released in India.
Please. I want you to see it so badly so that I can bask in what is your complete and utter bafflement about what's going on with that movie.
Yeah, I hear you.
But that's not why we're here. We're here for the second installment of Gladiator, Gladiator 2, directed once again by Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
But apart from Connie Nielsen, the love interest of the original Maximus, I think cast is new, right?
Well, Derek Jacobi reprises his role as one of the senators from the movie as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then in terms of actors, I don't think anyone else is there. But in terms of, spiritual successors, you had obviously, we all saw it coming. Her son in the story is back.
Yeah. So here we go. Let's dive in then. Plot first. We saw the original Gladiator, right? Directed by Ridley Scott. This is a 2000, really an epic drama, right? I think at the time it was widely praised for the CGI where they had, all the different people like in the arena, or the Coliseum, I should say. It was truly epic, right? They were talking about like the 360 views, and it was, really something that you needed to see on a big screen. And the original Gladiator, I think it's fair to say, I am not aware of anyone who walked out of that theater who said, I want my money back, right? That was a fulfilling movie, whether it's one of your all-time favorite movies or you consider it a classic or not, maybe is up for debate. But I don't think anyone walked out of that cinema saying that was lousy. That was another Megalopolis. I want my money back. Everyone stayed to the end of that. And I think it had a very satisfactory ending, right? And I think we can do spoiler alert since it's end of 2024. And that's, definitely crossed the statute of limitations for spoilers. But, Maximus dies at the end. But I think we feel like that story wrapped up very neatly, which you cannot say for all stories. And that's why we were a little bit, I wouldn't say puzzled or confounded, but we didn't know what the natural sequel was for Gladiator 2. Becomes very apparent, maybe not at the outset, but near the outset, that the main character in this, right, Lucius, Paul Mescal, is the son of the original Gladiator, Maximus, right?
Yeah.
In that sense, if we're just talking, and then we won't go into maybe too many other spoiler alerts, but in terms of the high level plot, okay, I think that wasn't a bridge too far to cross. I thought that was fine as a plot contrivance. I thought there was a little too much with Connie Nielsen about you're not my mother, or refuse to recognize you as my mother, or I disclaim you as my mother. I don't love you. Wait a second. I always loved you. I thought that was a little bit too
contrived.
Too much drama it seemed like a very Gen Z kind of like drama, like,
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of all saw it coming. Yes, that's the sun. I thought they kind of tried to hide it a little bit in plain sight. And then I thought it was a little bit weird that, first it's I hate you, and then it's I love you. And I think that didn't really add a whole lot to the movie. But apart from that, in terms of the high level storyline, I thought it was not bad. It made sense.
I agree with you. Look, I think that that was probably done to try to pull at your heartstrings, but it didn't come off that way for me at all. It seemed a bit
Yeah.
too manufactured. I
Yeah.
wasn't super impressed with it, to be honest.
I think it would have come off as more genuine because I mean he's essentially abandoned twice, right? He's not abandoned, but like Lucilla sends him away. He's the heir to the throne. They need to protect him. Makes sense. Not really clear like why she didn't get him after all these years. Okay, maybe still for his protection. But then it seemed that like his foster family also lost or gave him up for adoption because we see like a small scene where like a mother figure kind of says you've got to go, and then we hear I guess like the ruler of Namibia
Numidia, yeah.
say, hey, we just found you as an orphan, kind of like walking in the desert, right? Which kind of made it seem as though like there was some war that he survived or some raid that he survived, right? So it's kind
Yeah.
of like he was given up twice. That didn't really seem great, but we take it. He found a new adopted home. He bought into it. He was very happy, found a beautiful wife. And then, of course, they were raided by the Romans, so on and so forth. He becomes the gladiator, and that's where, the plot thickens, as we say, or I
Right.
say. Let's go to plot and then action, then characters. Plot-wise, not bad. I mean, not going to win maybe an Academy Award for the screenplay, but I mean, plausible, and at least it was kind of coherent, right?
Yeah.
Some attempts to kind of like pull at the heartstrings, to manufacture some drama, to create a little bit more intrigue where maybe none needed to be pulled in, but there's nothing that you would say was implausible, doesn't make sense, major gap, maybe just not as much emotion as the writers thought they were creating. In terms of like the action and the story, what do you think?
I gotta say, I really liked it.
Yeah.
I really liked it. I thought like the first movie, the action sequences were very good. And
Yeah.
look, I think we've all been spoiled by the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think by the DC Universe, by John Wick, and
Yeah.
so forth. I think generally speaking, we've been spoiled for good action.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, I was very impressed with the
Right.
fight sequences. I was
Yeah.
impressed with what seemed like pretty epic battles, even though when I say epic, I don't mean epic in terms of large scale, but I think in epic in terms of, you're talking about something in the Colosseum, you're talking about animals, you're talking about, that sequence in the Colosseum, for example, with the reenactment of the sea.
Fantastic.
I thought that was really good, and I thought that was
Yeah.
brilliantly done.
I didn't know about the sharks needing to be brought in, but I definitely like the idea that they flooded the Colosseum.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of, the ships kind of attacking each other and smashing into each other. I
Yeah,
thought
I
that was,
mean, probably not plausible that they could achieve ramming speed from like 3 meters
yeah,
away.
yeah,
Fair enough. But still, in
yeah,
terms of action sequence,
yeah,
pretty cool to see that,
yeah.
right? Like, I
I
mean,
agree. Not only that, but having seen now two Gladiator movies, there are limited number of like Colosseum fight scenes that you can
yeah,
really, like at some point, okay, there's the wild animal, there's the big, what's that guy's name in Game of Thrones, right? There's that big guy, who's in the mask,
the mountain.
and you've got then maybe some chariots and some other like,
Yeah,
bludgeoning tools. But yeah, I mean, I thought adding the water was a good breath of fresh air that we could say, oh, well, that's new. I
yeah,
think if there would have been another, like, all right, five against one, swords and axes and cleavers and stuff, we would have been like, well, ho hum. We've kind of already seen two of those in this movie. We've seen three in the prior movie. It's a little trite. That was a really good way to shake it up a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I liked that, it was impressive when you saw the first
Yeah,
fight sequence with the guy on the
yeah,
rhinoceros, right?
yeah,
And like the rhinoceros is fully armored. That
yeah,
felt like something out of a Marvel movie, right? Like that felt like it
yeah,
could have been a Spider-Man villain for
yeah,
all we cared about.
yeah.
I was hoping we wouldn't see too much of that because you're right. How
Mm,
much of the Lion King do we really want to see in a Coliseum? So I thought
yep,
that was really impressive.
yeah.
I thought what was also good was they didn't unnecessarily elongate the fight sequences. They were relatively short and sweet. Like that sequence with the monkeys could have gone much further or longer, rather.
Are those real monkey? Like not real in real life? Like, is that a real species?
Yeah, it didn't, to me, it looked like something that could have been an alien, right? Like it looked really weird.
It seemed like if Jurassic Park was about monkeys instead of dinosaurs, that's what you would get.
That's what you'd get. I'm sure those are real, but at the same time, nothing I've seen in my local zoo.
Nor have I. For the record, nor have I seen that at my local zoo.
Yeah, look, I let's take a step back. What did you think of? Okay, so we've talked about the plot. Some of it seemed a bit contrived, some of it seemed a bit
Yeah,
like woe is me, like, but
yeah,
what do you think of the actors? Because so Connie Nielsen didn't have a very strong role in the first movie because obviously it was not so much about her.
right.
Whereas in this case, she takes a little bit more of a front-facing
Yeah.
view. What did you think of Denzel Washington or Pedro Pascal? Or Paul Mescal for that matter?
So Paul Mescal, to be honest, and this is going to sound like a backhanded compliment, and maybe it is, but I thought he was a very good person in that role. I mean, I'm sure that there was someone out there who said, hey, let's get Chris Evans or let's get one of the Hemsworth brothers. Like, let's remember Brad Pitt was in the movie Troy, right? Where there he was kind of like a sex symbol, right? I mean, he
Yeah.
was like buffed and long blonde hair and so forth. I feel like someone probably said, hey, let's get a Hemsworth brother. Let's get Chris Evans. Let's get someone really so handsome that, like, we get what they wanted to do, another Troy, another Brad Pitt. And someone said, look, that's not realistic. That's actually not what these guys looked like. And again, I don't mean this as a knock against Paul Mescal, though it probably sounds like it, but like he's not like beautiful. Like he may be handsome and rugged in his own way, but like no one kind of looks at him as like, oh my God, like his teeth, his skin, his hair, like he's just so pretty, like
You
he
say
looks like he
that,
could actually be a gladiator,
but
right?
also there were moments where he really did look like a young Russell Crowe.
Yeah,
And
true.
I think that was very important. But Connie Nielsen as Lucilla makes that point. She's like, you stand
Yeah,
like him.
yeah,
And he kind of does have that
yeah,
stature that
yeah,
Russell Crowe had in the first movie.
yeah,
So it makes sense that they would want someone who at least has
yes,
a passing resemblance.
yes. I agree. So I thought that was good. I thought he was excellently cast. I thought everyone else who was a Roman was well cast. I'm I like Denzel in the first two-thirds until he turned
Yeah.
into the bad guy. I thought he was going to be honest, the good guy.
I didn't see that villain turn at all because I thought, first of all, he kind of plays off this guy who knows who he has, right? Like he knows
Yeah,
he's got Hanno, but then he's like,
yeah,
I know that's Lucius.
yeah,
Okay, but how do you know that? Like you allude to it a lot, but you don't
yeah,
really show us at all. Like there's no light bulb moment. Like you don't have to explain to us how you know that, but you should at least allude to us that you know that. He makes one comment about, oh, how blue is your blood?
yeah,
But then it kind of they don't really allude to that. So that was a bit odd, right?
Yeah.
Two, they make a big deal about saying that, I'm going to hide my past, right? About this guy's past, and that he used to be Marcus Aurelius's slave. But so what? And again, I don't mean to say that that's a good thing or a bad thing. That's not my judgment. My point was that he was just a nobody who wanted to break the system, fine, but he wasn't really breaking the system at all. He was just making it work for him. It did that villain turn wasn't as compelling to me as it could have been, nor was it satisfying. Had he figured out, oh, I've got Lucius, I'm going to use this to my advantage, which is what he does, but I want to break the system and really make the dream come true. That's one way to go. And in this case, he was like, I want to make sure the dream is a fiction. Okay, fine. But that wasn't compellingly done, I thought. I thought it was a very weak villain turn.
We're aligned. I think that either he should have been like a Littlefinger, Game of Thrones, like schemer the entire time,
Yeah.
thought coming, or he should have been the guy like, I'm doing it the right way. And then maybe like he got screwed by the twin emperors. And then he's like, look, I've been honest. I've been doing this right. Now I'm out for blood.
Yeah.
Like they screwed me. They promised me if my guy won, they'd give me this purse or I'd get this promotion or something.
Or I'd become a senator.
Fine. Now I'm going to be a bad guy. I see that I can't do this honestly. I've been trying my whole life. That would have been a better turn. But I kind of thought he was a good guy for most of the movie. And I liked him in that role. And then he just got like kind of weird about the whole thing,
Yeah.
I wasn't really happy with
I thought that was not a compelling way to go. And then speaking of like the prima facie bad guys, right? The twins.
Yeah.
They were I get why they made Denzel the main bad guy, because as bad guys, they were just the most milquetoast generic bad guys. The twins were just like these Dumb and Dumber style, like one of them is a competent twin, the other is like this kid who's got clearly some kind of mental deficiency, right? Because
and an STD.
Something, right? And I know there is some kind of STD or venereal disease that does affect your mind as well, and that's clearly what he's got, right? Because they even said it, right? Like the disease that infects his loins has also infected his mind. So
I mean, what a classic line. You just don't hear lines like that enough anymore.
I don't know. I just thought that they were generic bad guys. I think they could have done more interesting with them.
I kind of like the idea. I mean, we've seen so many one-off bad guy emperors, just these. We've either seen like the bloodthirsty emperor, we've seen the lazy, just in it for, like physical pleasures kind of emperor. I like the idea that they had the twins or brothers or whatever it was. I just felt like no one told them, like had a production meeting and said, hey, can you guys like coordinate your act? Like just coordinate your act, decide what you're going to be, but just do it kind of like together, and I felt like it would have been a little bit better if they would have found actually identical twins or had like do the art thing with like Army Hammer where he plays his double and just do like something where they're almost indistinguishable and give them like something to kind of play off on each other, like I thought that would have been great if they would have been like more identical, because here you kind of got it that one was the superior one was the inferior, but it didn't really come across who was the boss, was either the boss. They were both just a little bit.
I think you either have both of them be highly competent, or you have the one that's clearly incompetent actually be the super competent one who's playing it off as I'm the dumb, frivolous one, and he's the one who usurps his brother.
Yeah.
And then that becomes the shock twist, right? Like, oh my God, the guy who's the incompetent one who puts the monkey in charge is actually the guy who's pulling all the strings.
Yeah. I felt like those two, I really liked the idea. but I can't say that those two like really added anything to that role. I
Yeah,
think they were just both a
exactly.
little bit mush. I think it would have been better with identical twins. I know they tried to make them kind of look like brothers, and I believe that, but I think it would have been better to make them identical twins and to make them like really crazy. You know what would have been really cool? And we've never seen this, and maybe this would be like a really good inclusion exercise. Isn't there like a Siamese twin actor that they could have got? Like that would have been crazy, right?
That would be interesting. Yeah.
Like,
Or I mean CGI it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Matt Damon in the movie, which I can't believe that hasn't been canceled. Remember
Yeah.
that movie? Stuck on You?
Yeah.
How did that ever pass?
Yeah.
But apart from that, I mean, just in terms of the movie, Ridley Scott, I think like almost Michael Bay is another one that comes to mind. Like they do epics.
Yeah.
They do the music, they
Great
do
action
the
sequences,
ambiance.
so you can trust them that you can go into a
Yeah.
movie theater with a bag of popcorn and be
Yes.
totally satisfied.
Yes. And I give this, I mean, absolutely, it's in my book a must watch in cinemas. I feel like I'm getting the same from you.
100%.
I mean, there's definitely some little plot things that could have been better. There's some character things that could have been better, but that's apart from that, everything was reasonably plausible. You know, there
Yeah.
wasn't any awful turns, there wasn't anything that was super weird. You know, we're nitpicking a little bit, but in terms of just the overall flow and the overall impression that you got from the movie, at every step, I was like engaged, leaning forward, you know, like curious how this would play itself out.
And you know what? I'm going to go out and say kudos to Ridley Scott. 100% kudos for restraint that they didn't bring Russell Crowe back for some
Yeah,
kind of CGI'd moment of, that Lion King, I
yeah,
see my son in the
yeah,
cloud, my father in the clouds moment. And that last scene where he's just touching the earth of the Colosseum and says,
yeah,
you know, Father, please speak to me. And you just see that moment of the Elysium fields with the hands
yeah,
touching the reeds.
yeah,
Chef's kiss, that was
yeah,
perfect.
yeah,
That's
I agree.
all you needed. You didn't need
Yeah,
more. You didn't need, that's Russell Crowe. And,
yeah,
bless his cotton socks. The guy's old now. He's out of
yeah,
shape now. That's normal. But I mean, look, it's not a
yeah,
knock on him. It
yeah,
happens. Yeah.
yeah,
So, like, the last thing you'd want is for them to kind of do that. And I loved that homage of how he puts the armor on, how the sword breaks, because obviously it's not been maintained. It's, brittle.
yeah. I mean, how did his armor not break? He was like stabbed in the sternum like 6 times.
No, and a clearly old Denzel Washington should not be able to match up in any way, shape, or form with
Yeah.
an in prime Paul Mescal.
Well, that's interesting you say because I have to say, when I saw that fight scene with Pedro Pascal, I was also kind of wondering, like, how is he staying with the young dude? You know, like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe the young dude because he's not really like fed well and doesn't sleep well. And I mean, he didn't really stretch or anything, but generally, I would have imagined that just based on kind of like age and the look of the fitness of those two,
Yeah.
that Pedro Pascal's character should have got like his ass whooped, you know?
Speaking of which, by the way, that death sequence for Pedro Pascal,
Yeah,
I thought that was fabulously well done.
yeah.
I mean, there was a part of me that kind of hoped that the two of them would team up and then take on the entire Praetorian Guard, but
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I thought was, I don't know if I'm, I don't know if I mean, definitely I think it was the right thing for him to die, but I'm not sure if I really loved the way that it happened, where he kind of like surrendered and they had like their own Roman soldiers. I don't know how we would have done that differently, but what struck me was that when he had all those arrows in him when he fell backwards, like I was wondering if he was just going to kind of like roll, you know, because like he had like so many arrows in his chest. And you actually saw the arrows kind of like broke apart when they hit the ground. And if that was real and they just had kind of like these, I don't know, exploding arrows, then that was a very, very impressive scene from from a, I don't know, a stunt sequence perspective.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, definitely I love the movie. I mean, would I see it again today? I would probably not go by myself today, but if someone who hadn't seen it said, "Hey, I really want to go. Do you want to go?" I'd probably be like, "Yeah, I'll go again." And in a couple of years, I'll probably definitely watch it again.
Oh yeah, 100%. In fact, I was telling my dad because I thought he would enjoy the
Yeah,
film. I think I told him that if he wants to go, I'll go see it again with him.
yeah. I'm guessing based on the audiences that I saw and based on how many cinemas it's in, this will be $1 billion movie.
I'm skeptical about how much money it's.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to make 1 billion. I think it'll do very well for a couple of reasons. One, competition-wise, what else is out?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Two, we're coming up on Thanksgiving weekend in the US.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, it's a pretty good time to go to the cinema.
Yeah.
But I mean, $1 billion, that is not an easy ask. And I don't think this movie, which is definitely rated R, is going to make it.
I don't know. I mean,
I think it'll do really well. Look, I hope I'm wrong because the more $1 billion movies there are, the better. Guess how much money this movie cost to make, though?
I thought 203 million.
Yeah, $210 million. It looked fantastic.
Yeah.
But $210 million for what?
I don't know. I mean, considering everything else we see is 400 million, it seems like, I hate to say that's a bargain, but it seems like a bargain, right? I thought this was expensive. Do you think they really used the Roman Colosseum for any of the shots?
No. 100% no. There's no way. I think they must have CGI'd everything.
There were some scenes that seemed like they did, I don't know.
I
Yeah.
bet you they did a few practical sets, but I would be hard pressed to believe they filmed anything in the actual Colosseum.
All right.
Because I was there I say recently, 5 years ago. And I mean, that place looks every bit as old as it is.
It looks it looks realistic for its period.
Yeah.
Do we have anything else to say, or can I shift the topic quickly?
Must watch in cinema. That's it.
100%. Sticking on the theme of fighting an octogenarian vis-a-vis Denzel Washington, vis-a-vis Pedro Pascal, Netflix also showed a 27-year-old gladiator fighting an elderly senior citizen in Paul versus a very kind of sad Mike Tyson.
Yeah. I think there was a bit of wish fulfillment just because Jake Paul is such an unlikable jackass.
Yeah.
But I mean, no one expected this to be a good match, and it clearly wasn't.
Yeah.
It was just a waste of time.
It seemed like a very good idea at the time. But then when you kind of saw it, I mean, Tyson looked a little bit sad. Like he's wearing a knee brace. He didn't look bad. I mean, to be honest, for a 58-year-old guy, he looked pretty bloody good.
Yeah.
And I mean, I challenge anyone else who's 58 years old to put on a better show than he did. But I mean, definitely it seemed like a deflating experience,
Yeah, absolutely.
On YouTube, you can watch each of their entrances. You can watch like the highlights. And it seemed like Tyson came out, like it seemed like the first 1 minute, everyone was kind of like, whoa, this could be something, a lot of, action here. And then by the end of the first round and every subsequent round, it was kind of like, that was it, like he blowed in the first round. I mean, and that was kind of it, No, not much else to say. I mean, a little bit of a disappointing experience. And I think from a Jake Paul perspective, I think he's got reasonable credibility that he's taking boxing seriously. And he's got, he's definitely showing up in shape and seems to be training hard. But I think if he's really serious, he needs to fight someone who's a somewhat ranked boxer and see where it's going to go from here.
That's it. That's it. As much as I hate the guy, you're absolutely right. You can't tell me you're a serious boxer and then not fight serious boxers.
Yeah. I mean, now he's got to find someone who's the right age, who's a little bit ranked. I mean, it doesn't have to be a title bout, but it's got to be someone who's kind of like a top 10 or 15. I don't know what it matters, but like
Whatever it
someone
is, it needs to be someone. It needs to be someone the boxing world recognizes as a legitimate fighter.
well, he fought Tyson Fury's brother, right? And he lost to his Tyson Fury's brother. That's his only notable, like real boxer that he's fought. Like he's
Okay.
fought guys and some retired guys, but the only real boxer he's fought was Tyson Fury's brother.
Okay.
And he um so yeah, I mean it was a big event. I think for Netflix, I think they're probably happy with it. Like I would expect Netflix would do it again. I mean, maybe they didn't really like the outcome, but in terms of the eyeballs that they got, I think it worked out well for Netflix, right?
Absolutely. No, and in terms of content, I mean, they've been doing this, they did the pre-fight matchup, they did all the, they had other shows and other features that they kind of did on the lead up. So for them, it was a good content generating thing. And then, of course, that's exactly what Netflix wants. So good for them.
Yeah. If Netflix is really going to get into boxing, I would like them to do something a little bit more granular. Maybe not a tutorial, but kind of something that dumbs it down even for someone like me, and talk a little bit about, okay, what's the difference in the belts and who owns every belt, and kind of like, I would like them to do a little bit, if they're really going to be serious in this and they really want to get people to follow the sport, I think at some point they need to kind of explain some of these things,
Actually, you know what I see them doing? It's a reality TV show focused on like amateur boxing, and like the winner of the show gets like an agent and a chance to be coached by someone of note, and
Yep,
representation, that kind of thing. That's something I can see them doing.
not a bad idea. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, just wanted to see if you caught it. I don't think it needs much more than that, but it was definitely a big event. I think it is going to be forgotten as soon as now it's over. I think it's going to be, if it's not already forgotten, I think it soon will be, but I would expect that there's going to be more that we hear from Netflix in the space.
Absolutely.
Pete, before we sign off, do you want to give YouTube Cred's social media jazz?
Absolutely. Tweet at us at FNS Podcast. DM us on Instagram at Films and Stuff Podcast. Otherwise, the best thing you can do, leave a comment below, like this video, hit the subscribe button, and hit that notification bell.
Pete, appreciate you. Thank you for watching Gladiator with me. Opening weekend, we reviewed it. Our work here is done. Listeners, if you have not already seen Gladiator 2, run, don't walk to your cinema. I think you'll have to find a ticket that's available. Seems like they're selling out quickly. Let us know what you think, and we will catch you on the next episode of the Films and Stuff podcast. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Ethan. Thanks, everyone.
Bye now.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.